One of the biggest things I hear from women is this: I want to travel more, but I also want to be smart with my money. Sometimes those two things can feel completely opposite. Because, yes, travel is beautiful and life giving and confidence building, but flights, hotels, and vacations can also get expensive fast. That's why I'm so excited for today's conversation. I'm joined by Julia Menez, founder of Geobreeze Travel, who helps people learn how to maximize travel rewards and save thousands of dollars on travel each year. We're talking about how to travel more strategically using credit card points, miles, and intentional spending habits to make travel more affordable without wrecking your budget and your financial goals in the process. And I especially love today's guest because her approach is not about reckless spending or opening 20 credit cards just to chase points. It's about building a strong financial foundation first, and then using points and miles as a tool to create more experiences and flexibility in your life. Hey friend, welcome to the City Girl Savings Podcast. I'm Raya Reeves, founder of City Girl Savings and your money coach. Years ago, budgeting changed my life. I went from overspending and constant financial stress to building real wealth. And now I help working women do the same through intentional, aligned money decisions. This podcast lives at the intersection of money and the city girl lifestyle, where budgeting meets travel, iced coffees, purpose-filled living, and feeling genuinely good about your finances. We're here to build wealth, protect your peace, and create a life that feels as good as it looks. So funny story, Julia and I actually met back in 2021 at FinCon in Austin. Julia is the founder of Geobreeze Travel, a platform focused on helping people strategically use points and miles to travel for significantly less money. Before becoming a full-time points and miles coach, Julia spent 9 years working as a pricing actuary in the insurance industry, using financial modeling and analytics to assess risk and strategy. She's built a highly engaged travel and points community through her podcasts, Instagram, YouTube, and coaching programs, which all focus on helping people save money on travel without sacrificing financial responsibility. Hello, Julia. Welcome to the show. I am actually very excited for this conversation. I love to travel, so this is like right up my alley. But I was hoping we can start with you sharing what travel hacking actually is, because I know that's a term we're going to use a lot, and then how you got into this space to begin with.
So travel hacking goes by many names. Travel hacking, award flights, award travel, points and miles, all kind of means the same thing. And at its core, it's using the points and miles that you earn from flying, from staying at hotels, from using your credit cards, from shopping through different portals. Everybody seems to have a loyalty program these days where you're earning different points. Not all points are created equal. So this is all kind of the art and science of figuring out which points are the most valuable and how to make the most out of those programs.
Awesome. Okay. So that was a very succinct answer. How did you get into that? Like, how did you get into figuring out which points and miles and programs are like the best to go with for traveling?
Back in the day, in a former life, I was an actuary. So deep math modeling. And when you're an actuary, you have to take a lot of certification exams. So this took over my life from probably age 19 to 24, 25. And then one day I was done. And I had so much energy because all of that had just been put into exams for 6 years. And my husband was like, oh my God, you need a hobby. So that's how I got into personal finance before points and miles. Was he was like, read these blogs. I think you'll like them. He did not know how much I would like these blogs. I dove down such a rabbit hole. And a lot of the personal finance blogs were talking about they could travel for free. This is how they were saving money on their flights, was they get a Chase Sapphire, or the SPG card back in the day, which doesn't exist anymore. And I was like, this is a scam. This has to be a scam. But of course, like most scammy things, I'm just like, but I'm curious. So I open one card and I'm like, okay, we didn't die. So I open another card and we were about to go on vacation to Morocco. It was just booked like normal, where we had some cheap flights, we had a tour guide, he was taking care of everything. And about 20 hours before we were going to land in Morocco, he canceled on us because there was a family emergency. He's like, so
No.
sorry. Here's your money back. Good luck. And so I'm like, okay, where are we going to stay in Morocco? So I called up American Express because I had the SPG card back then. And I'm like reading off some script I found on Google where I'm like, hi, yes, I have points. I get free night. Huh? And they're like, yeah, you have enough points for this many nights at the Sheraton Casablanca. And I was like, cool, yeah, that gets me 3 nights out of 5 that I need. Like, I'll figure out the rest from there. So we get there, and I've got like my little printout that's like, you get free night. And I'm like, gonna be homeless in Morocco. We are homeless. But it worked. And they were like, oh, you have status with the card. So here's an upgrade. Here's free breakfast. Here's cocktail hour. And I was like, oh, we are in deep now. Like we are
Yes.
never going back. So from there, that was just like hobby mode. Then I was like, how do people earn a lot of points for business class flights and all that? The answer is largely business cards. We're going to get
Okay.
into you don't need a real business. I didn't know that in 2018 or whenever I did this. I thought you needed a real business. So I set up a fake travel agency just so I could get business credit cards. So yeah, Geobreeze Travel started off as a fake travel agency just so I could get a Chase Inc. business, whatever, back in the day. I think it was the Unlimited that I got first. And then I hated it. I did not like being a travel agent. And I made like 5 bookings for friends just to make some legitimacy to my fake travel agency. The pandemic hit, and I was like, this is the perfect excuse to close down the travel agency. But I
Yeah.
had already filed all this paperwork. I had made an Instagram, which just, oh, back in 2018, 2019, 2020 was just bikini photos because I didn't know what to do with Instagram. So it was just bikini photos back when I was like 15 pounds lighter. So that happened. I closed down the travel agency, and then I really just wanted to travel more, which we couldn't because it was the pandemic. So I
Right.
just kept reaching out to people online on Instagram, being like, do you want to hop on a Zoom call and talk about points and miles? And they were like, no, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to record our conversation and release it to thousands of people on the internet. And by thousands, we mean 2,000 on the internet. And they were like, oh, you're starting a points podcast. I would love to be featured. And I said, yes, we are doing that.
Uh-huh.
So that's how the Geobreeze Travel podcast started. And so that was kind of the birth of like the business side of things. So that was a not so sick answer for how did I get into the world of points and miles and why are we here today?
So I've got to assume that you love to travel before any of this began because you were already going to Morocco and that's not an easy trip, right? So like was travel something that was always a priority for you?
Kind of. Growing up, I think we got a vacation like every 8 years, and it was always to the Philippines, which is where
Right.
my parents are from. So kind of, but not a lot. And then one day I graduated from college. My husband and I would take like one trip per year. There was like a Thailand trip and then like the Morocco trip, a Puerto Rico trip here or there. It wasn't a lot of travel. These days, I feel like I'm taking a business class flight every month or so. Like points and miles will unlock insane opportunities.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And I think that leads me into something I want to talk about really nicely because I think a lot of people feel like travel can be financially out of reach for them. And with this whole world of travel hacking, it actually doesn't have to be. So, can you share your thoughts on like why you think people feel like travel is so expensive or it's just too much and how they can start shifting that mindset so they can explore more?
I think people oftentimes feel like travel is too expensive and out of their budget because it is out of their budget because their budget went towards so many other things. And I'm sure you have tons of episodes about this, about the cost of rent, the ratio between how much it just costs to live now versus how much you're actually making at work and how the cost of expenses are going up so much faster than the cost of salaries and wages. I'm sure you have Lots of episodes about that. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to gaslight people into being like, travel is actually really, really affordable. Everything that you're seeing about groceries and gas and all of that is not real. Travel's totally fine. I don't want to gaslight people into being like, everything's affordable. Because,
Right.
like, the truth is, it's not for some people. And in order to get into the game of points and miles, you really do need that solid foundation. We can talk about all the sexy tips and tricks to get lay flat business class seats and go to the Maldives and stay for a few dollars in taxes, if that, by using points. But
Hmm.
if you're coming back home and like you can't afford your pet's veterinary medication, like I still don't want people to prioritize all of this
Right.
before having a solid foundation. So we can get into those tips and tricks. I just want to level set with some people that it actually is not affordable where they are at this point in life. And that's totally okay because they have to prioritize some other things in their budget first and then move on to this. People get into so much trouble when they're like, I think I want to do things out of order. I'm just going to ostrich myself into the ground about the debt that I have right now
Mm.
and the house that I bought that I can't afford and the lifestyle I cannot afford. And this will be the band-aid that fixes everything. I just need more high rewards credit cards. Oh, I promise you guys, if you are thinking this is the magical band-aid to fix all sorts of other financial issues, it is not. It is gravy on top once everything is already set.
Oof. I really appreciate you saying that because I think travel hacking sounds great. It sounds cool. It sounds like, hey, I can travel for nothing. And that's not really the case, right? I mean, can we take a step back, Julia, and maybe explain like your theory or your process for actually travel hacking? So, how does a person get all of the points and rewards to be able to travel for cheap? Because I think that will really like close the loop on this.
So, assuming somebody already has a pretty good solid foundation for their personal finance, they're not carrying consumer credit card debt, any of that, I would work backwards because so many people just Google best credit cards for me and then they go through like apply through the top 10. Don't do that because then you're going to end up with 10 possibly different piles of points and they don't fit together for any type of cohesive vacation that you actually want to take. What you want to do instead is get some inspiration. We have a lot on Instagram or YouTube or podcasts or wherever. Figure out roughly where you want to go and start pricing it backwards. So let's say you want to go to Japan. Who flies there? How many points did somebody else say that it usually takes them in order to take that kind of business class trip? What kind of points are you going to need? Who transfers over there? On the Geobreeze Travel YouTube, we have tons of tutorials, free tutorials for people to work around with the different points tools so you can kind of see, okay, is that a unicorn kind of miracle deal or is that generally available to get from wherever to Japan around the time that I want to go? Once you've got all that and you know what kind of points you need and how many points you're going to need, let that determine what cards and what kind of points you're going to get, and then surgically earn the right kind of points so that you are not fractured in your ability to do anything cool because you have a little bit of Air Canada and a little bit of Southwest, a little bit of Air France, a little bit of British Airways, a little bit of Hilton, which
Mm.
won't fit together.
Right. So, again, kind of like going back to the beginning, a person is going to use, after doing their research, whatever card they deemed was the most appropriate. They're going to use that card for all of their normal spending, right? And basically just accumulate enough points to book the trip, or like what would that look like?
Maybe.
Mm.
So if you get one of these high rewards credit cards, very important that you have a plan for how to meet the minimum spend. Because especially if you are not spending a lot of money each year, if you have pretty low expenses, most of your points are probably going to come from the sign up bonus, where it's
Ah,
usually structured like earn some tens of thousands of points if you spend three or four or $5,000 in the first 3 months of opening the card. That's where a lot of the points will come from. You want to make sure you have a plan for how to do that because you don't want to be 2 months in from opening this card and be like, oh, I have a $3,000 minimum spend to get however many tens of thousands of points or the bonus. I've only put 2,000 of expenses on the credit card and I don't really have anything else coming up. Maybe I should buy $1,000 worth of useless nonsense on Amazon.
oh,
Don't do that. So
yeah.
before you open the card, number one, make sure you have a plan for how you're going to meet that minimum spend.
Hmm.
But also, number two, make sure that you have at least that much in your checking account ready to pay the credit card off. Like always at least have that, because if you have to carry a balance on these, you're going to pay interest on the high rewards credit cards. With high rewards comes high interest, and these are some of the highest interest rates out on the market. It's how they can afford to give such rich rewards a lot of the time. So just make sure that you're paying everything off in full every month for every card. Auto pay.
Like a must. That has to happen. Okay, so is there a world in which, let's say somebody already has a credit card that has really good travel perks or rewards that they love? Is there a world in which they are just using that card regularly to accumulate points, or is that not the best way to do it because of how long it could possibly take?
You can do that. I recommend it more so for people who have high expenses anyway. So people think that you have to keep opening more and more cards. After a while, you're going to get a little bit throttled by the banks. So what I would recommend is if you can keep working on your financial journey, get to a place where you don't need to be opening so many cards, where you just naturally have increased salary, increased income, and then you can use that for increased expenses that don't really destroy your financial picture. That would be great. A lot of our clients at Geobreeze Travel are business owners, doctors, lawyers, high income individuals who have a lot of expenses and don't have a lot of patience for opening a gazillion cards per year. So then, yes, it becomes much more important to allocate your expenses to the cards that earn the most points. I would say it's very good to have a card where you earn at least 2 points per dollar everywhere.
Okay.
Capital One Venture tends to be a go-to card. I like the Built Palladium card, which gets 2 to 3 points per dollar on most things. When I'm traveling abroad, Alaska Atmos Summit card is my go-to because it gets 3 points per dollar on foreign purchases. So those are three cards that are good to look into for pretty high points earnings. Built and Capital One are flexible, so they have lots of transfer partners. We can talk about that in a sec. And Alaska miles are very valuable as well. There's a lot of good deals you can book through Alaska.
Okay, perfect. Now, you mentioned a lot of your Geobreeze travel clients are high earners. That leads me to a question. What would you say to someone who assumes that they don't make enough money to benefit from points or miles or even travel hacking to begin with? Like, is there an income requirement in your opinion?
There's not an income requirement to get started. I would say at least have a credit score of 720 and be in a place where you're not having to pay off any debt and you can put credit cards on auto pay and be fine. The problem we run into is not necessarily, you don't need a minimum income, but you just need to be able to have realistic expectations, where Instagram is full of people like me who post themselves in business class all the time. And there's so much marketing out there for like, you can have a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget. And so you have all these people on a beer budget who are so disappointed with themselves that they aren't flying in business class every single week. I would say a good threshold is if the world of points and miles did not exist, what is your actual budget that you can afford each year or for a particular trip? And then you can use points to maybe 5x or 10x that when you're a beginner.
Okay.
So if you only have $2,000 that you have allocated for this vacation, don't get upset that you didn't get a $50,000 trip, because it just takes a little bit more than that. Points and miles are great for stretching the budget you already have. But if you're in a place where you're going to be wrecked, if you have to pay high taxes because you went through London, or you didn't realize that you could only afford to pay 6 nights for your hotel, and then the seventh one, you stopped paying cash and you can't afford to be at that hotel. Or we have a lot of people, we get reports that they went to the Maldives and like the hotel was covered. Maybe they got breakfast for free from Status, but you're on a private island.
Right.
And there's one restaurant and the cheeseburger at that restaurant's going to be $65. Like, what are you going to do? Not eat for a week on Maldives, or only eat breakfast and then survive the rest of the time on nothing because you can't afford to physically be at that resort? That's not the life that I want for people using points and miles. And people do this so much where they're just like, and they think it's cute and funny to be like, ha ha ha, I made terrible financial decisions and now I'm stuck at this Ritz-Carlton on this private island that I can't afford soup. Don't be like that. So, to answer your question, there is not a minimum income that you need
Mhm.
in order to get into points and miles. It's just act your wage. Whatever your budget is, have expectations proportional to that for what points and miles can get you. Because I personally last year got about $163,000 worth of retail value of flights and hotels and stuff, mostly with points. But my out of pocket spend was still probably at least $15,000
Mm,
because there's like positioning flights involved, there's taxes and fees. It's not 100% free. And if somebody listening to this is like, I don't have $15,000, that's totally fine. You don't need to be going for $150,000 worth of retail value. Maybe we
right.
just scale it back to where you're getting 10 or 20, and that's still fantastic.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Like your first trip that you travel hack doesn't have to be to the Maldives, right? Like it can be somewhere closer, somewhere within budget, somewhere where if something does go wrong, like you'll be okay. I think that's such an important point to make.
Absolutely. So many people are like, these points are really hard to earn. So if I redeem them, I need to make sure it is just the most out of this
Mm,
world, around the world trip, 17 cents per point, because I'm never going to earn these points again. And I want people to not have that kind of limiting belief that the
yeah.
points are always going to be hard to earn. The more you're into the game, the deeper you get, the more years of experience you have, the more you realize it gets easier and easier to earn points once you kind of have the momentum going. It's kind of like debt payoff, right? Like the first 100,000 is the hardest, or investing strategies, the first 100,000 is the hardest. And then from there, it just kind of compounds. So does
Mhm.
your knowledge of points. So I get that when beginners are making their first redemption, they're like, Emirates first class or bust. Like, I can't just use my points to go to Miami. That's not cool enough. I'm like, it's not cool enough for who? Your kids who like
Right.
you're booking this for the five friends that you're going to text about your vacation who don't know what points and miles are. Like, you don't need to worry about impressing people on the internet using your points and miles. Because as somebody who has footage of most of the business class flights, I assure you, like, people on the internet are still not impressed.
That's such a good way of looking at it. I think if a person really loves to travel, I think it's important to understand that maybe it's not the scale or the size or the location of the trip. It's the fact that you actually can do this and you can do it for saving money or while saving money, which is huge. So, if we transition to, let's say someone's listening to this and they would consider themselves very beginner, are there certain cards or certain setups that are best for people who are really starting to get into this world? And are there any specific purchases people should ideally be putting on their new travel card?
Pretty much all consumer purchases would be good. So once you get a new card, if you have low spend, you're probably going to need to allocate all of it into the new card, which gets annoying if you're churning through cards constantly and having to just like move everything so you can get $3,000 onto this card and then 3,000 onto the next one. For beginner cards, historically, Chase Sapphire Preferred is the one where everyone's like, oh, it's the best beginner card. It's perfectly fine. I think these days we have a lot more options now than just the Chase Sapphire. Built has a pretty good ecosystem, and those points are worth a lot more. Capital One is perfectly fine as well. I wouldn't recommend Amex first, but Amex points can be quite valuable too. And it also really depends on where you're trying to go because Chase is great for beginners. And let's say you've been banking up all of your Chase miles. Now you've got like 2 million Chase points across all your different cards. And you want to go back and forth to Taiwan a lot. Upon researching, you'll find that the best routes are probably with EVA, business class, or Starlux is a nice one too. There's a little bit of opportunity with China Airlines, or you can route through other things in Asia. If you want to fly EVA or Starlux, Chase points don't transfer there. It's kind of like when somebody's like, oh, I've got 3 million Southwest points and I want to go to France. I just kind of have to laugh and say, I love that for you. Southwest doesn't fly to France. So now we have to start over. So if you have a little bit of an idea in mind of what you eventually want to use these points for, and then do some research on how do I earn the correct type of points, I can save you a lot of heartache down the line. And if you don't want to do all that research, you can write to us at geobreezetravel.com/request. We can produce free tutorials from there.
Oh, good. Okay. That's really good to know because it sounds like, I mean, it's a process. Like, this is not easy peasy, pick a card and go. Like, there's some strategy that's really involved in this.
A lot of people make it sound super easy, and I'm guilty of this on Instagram too. I actually took it out of my scripts where I had the 2 character thing being like, how do you do this? Oh, it's easy. All you have to do is Google 1, 2, and 3. And it's actually not that easy at all. And whenever you see a whole bunch of people posting about, oh, my best or favorite card, whatever, is on sale right now, heightened transfer bonus, like everybody's favorite card is the one that is currently having an increased commission promotion. So just gonna say that that's out there. But yeah, do some research on the best cards that would actually help. If you need personalized recommendations, again, we do free consultations, geobreezetravel.com/consultations. Most of those are not my affiliate links anymore because the credit card companies got mad at me because I kept telling people a whole bunch of tips they didn't want people to know. So that's we can get into it, but those are not my affiliate links. They're referral links from people in the community.
Enjoying this episode so far? If you're ready to take this work deeper, head to citygirlsavings.com for free resources that help you budget with intention, strengthen your money mindset, and build wealth without feeling deprived. And if you want more support between episodes, you can find City Girl Savings on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at City Girl Savings. Okay, so a question I have for you. You had mentioned the Chase, I think, Sapphire. Some of these cards, if I'm not mistaken, have some pretty high annual fees. At what point would you say it's not worth it, maybe for someone to have a card with such a high annual fee? Like if they're not traveling once a year, just like what are your thoughts on that?
To justify the annual fee, you have to get enough out of the card to do that cost benefit analysis. So let's say Amex Platinum is the coupon book people usually talk about. It's like $900 a year now, which like you get some hotel credits, you get airline incidental credits, you get Uber credits, you get restaurant credits. That's all good. And if you use all of it, it will add up to much more than $900. But you also have to ask yourself, would I be Ubering in the first place? Would I be eating at these restaurants in the first place? Like, how much do I have to do some kind of mental gymnastics to be able to use these coupons? So that's one approach to it. Also, it probably makes sense to get one premium card for most people if you're traveling a decent amount for the lounge access in the airports and all that. It probably does not make sense to have 6, which a lot of people do. And that's thousands of dollars in annual fees if you're doing that. The way you can tell if you have too many is if the benefits keep expiring on you where you forgot to use them, or you realize, oh, that free night certificate just expired on me. I didn't get a chance to use it. Oh, I forgot to use my Uber credits this month. Oh, I didn't get to use my Cheesecake Factory credit. If these keep expiring on you, you are juggling too many cards and you need to cut some of them because you're not getting the benefits out of those fees.
Right. Okay. And like, do you recommend people like track the perks per card? Like if we're getting up there to a lot of cards, I mean, I could imagine it would be hard to kind of keep up with it. So do you recommend people like keep tabs on their benefits?
Yeah, there's an app for this, useyourcredits.com, I think is what it's called, that helps you track all of these. Definitely make sure you're using up your benefits at least enough to justify the annual fee. You don't have to use every single credit. Like my Amex Platinum comes with an Equinox credit. I don't use Equinox. I guess I could use the digital one and just have it on my phone and be like, look, but all the workouts I did not do.
Right.
We could go down that rabbit hole, but like if I were to be honest, I'll just write off that 300. It's not happening.
Right. Okay. That's helpful. Another question, a little bit of a sidebar. Do you ever recommend people close cards? Because it sounds like there's a lot of opening of credit cards. Do you also recommend people close credit cards?
Yeah. And before you close them, though, there's like a 3-step plan here. You probably want to close it if it has an annual fee. If there's no annual fee, just keep it open. It's good for your credit line. If there is an annual fee, don't close it right away, especially if it's an American Express card. Use the chat feature or call them and ask if there's any retention offers on your card, because sometimes they'll just waive the annual fee if you'll keep the card open another year.
Okay.
Because they paid a lot of customer acquisition costs for you to get that sign-up bonus, blah, blah, blah. So they might waive the fee for you or give you some bonus as a retention offer. That's plan A. If there's no retention offer, you can downgrade the card to a lower fee or maybe a no annual fee version of the card. So let's say you have like a Chase Sapphire Reserve premium card. and you're not using all the benefits. You
Mhm.
could downgrade it to the $95 version, which is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Or if you have too many Chase Sapphire Preferreds, then you could downgrade it to a free version, like a Chase Freedom Flex, Chase Freedom Unlimited. So that's plan B, is to downgrade the card so that you preserve the credit line. Plan C, if there's no cards to downgrade to, you can close the card, but if you have any other cards with that bank, see if you can consolidate the credit lines first. That way it still like doesn't have such a ding on your credit score.
Yeah. Okay. That's really helpful. And do your clients ever worry about like their credit score being impacted? Like if they go through the steps and maybe like plan C that they can't move their credit line, like is that something that your clients worry about?
A little bit, especially in the beginning, people don't understand how all of this impacts their credit score. We explain it all in our free course at geobreezetravel.com/free course. But really, the credit score will dip a little bit when they do the hard pull on your credit. So people freak out where they're like, oh my God, my credit score like dipped because they pulled my credit. But as long as you're paying everything off in full each time, it's going to get outweighed by the fact that you now have more credit available. Your utilization is probably more favorable. And so your score will probably go like this, where for
Mhm.
anybody just listening, it goes up and down, but trends up over time, kind of like the
Okay.
stock market. It trends up like that. So each time you get a new card, it'll go down a little bit, but over time, it just kind of goes up as long as you pay everything off in full every month. Please auto pay.
Yeah. I think that's such a good distinguishing point. And that's also something I want to talk about because I saw it on your website, but you've also mentioned it multiple times on this call. Carrying debt month to month is obviously a problem. So, why, in your opinion, is it so important for someone not to have that month over month debt? And then, is that something that somebody should strive to pay off all their debt, get to a place where they can maintain no debt before even like divulging in this world?
I'm just going to speak to credit card consumer debt first, and then we can expand it to other types. Mathematically, it is important to not carry consumer debt, especially on these cards, because the interest is going to be so high. You're going to be in a deep hole before you know what you're getting into if you are carrying balances on these high reward cards. So, just from a mathematical perspective, that's why you shouldn't do it. Do you need to be completely debt free before you get into this? I would say be credit card debt free before you get into this. If you have some student loans that you have to pay off and they're like the interest rate is low, have a debt payoff plan. And then you can incorporate this into your lifestyle as you see fit. Like people have mortgages all the time, which I guess is considered debt, and they're in the credit cards. That's fine. Just don't be carrying consumer credit card debt
Okay.
while trying to be like, oh, but it's negated by I got some really good points and miles deals. Nope, don't even go down that road of math because at the end of the day, you are going to lose. So
Yeah.
you need to be at a place where it's just paid off and there's no interest on any of these cards, and then you'll be okay.
Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and assume then if somebody is just getting started, their starting point should be no consumer debt or no credit card debt before they even get into the travel hacking.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You need to be out of credit card debt before you even start looking into this game. There are other ways to earn points outside of opening more and more cards, like shopping portals, just like loyalty programs like that. It won't earn you nearly as many points quickly. They could be worth getting into. We can talk about them if people want, but I think it is also just kind of like opening the floodgates to get
Mm,
into credit card debt. And so, like I mentioned at the beginning, I know travel feels a little bit out of reach for some people, which it completely is.
yeah.
Oftentimes, for no fault of their own, medical disasters happen. Those are expensive.
Hmm.
Lots of other things can happen. But also, we can't use that as an excuse of like, oh, something bad happened to me. Therefore, I think I should be able to open high rewards credit cards and take on debt so that I can get a business class ticket to France. Like, that logic does not track. And so, yes, it is very expensive to
Hmm.
exist in today's world. No, that does not mean that's a good excuse to just start opening Amex Platinums if you are absolutely not in a place where you should be doing that.
Yeah, say it louder to people in the back. I mean, that's so true. It's not going to be worth it. Like you might go on the trip and really have the best time, but you still have to come back and deal with the ramifications of that. So, I'm really glad you shared that. Are there any other habits or mindset shifts that people should have in place before they like really get serious about travel rewards?
There's a lot. One, the expectation that it should all be free if you just learn this is not going to be the case. We kind of talked about have a budget in place of what you can actually afford, and this is to stretch that. So that's one. The second, which is kind of a correlation, is people really, really want to avoid paying anything when they get into this game. Because especially if you come from a more frugal background, this is where the pendulum swings on the other side. Because all the frugal people are listening to this being like, yeah, you can't have consumer debt. Like, debt's bad. Don't spend any money ever. It's too far on the other side of the spectrum because there's a lot of different tools and stuff that will make your points and miles journey so much better. One being those annual fee cards, where if you're just sticking with the no annual fee cards, you're going to be on that hamster wheel a lot and it's going to be hard to earn any points. So, like a $95 fee card can be great for your strategy. A premium card can be great for your strategy. Not all annual fees are bad. Not all fees are bad for credit cards. So, that's something to keep in mind. But also, there's like software and services that can help you with this as well, where someone's like, oh, I don't know if I should pay $10 per month for this search tool that will save me $400 on flights because I don't know if it's going to save me 400. There's like a chance it could be 800 and a chance it could be zero. And I'm like, if you're going to spend $10 for education to maybe like expected value $400 savings on flights, just do it.
Right.
Same with paying for instruction. I'm obviously a little biased here because we have courses, we have consulting and all of that. But I would highly recommend the mindset shift of looking at things from a return on investment perspective versus let's minimize costs as much as possible perspective.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, I mean, to your point about investing in education or guidance, like sometimes the return on that investment isn't like purely tangible, right? But like what you gain from it blows you out of the water. So, okay, that's super helpful. How far in advance should people start planning trips strategically? So let's say someone is ready to do their first trip. You mentioned a lot of research is involved in this. Like, how far in advance should that research start? And are there ways for people to save money on travel that is just completely outside of points and miles?
Two questions there. So, yes, there are ways to save on travel, of course, outside of points and miles. I don't delve too much into like skip lagging or the super ultra low cost carriers or all the fees and stuff like that. There are entire channels that specialize more into those types of tips. The other question that you asked of how far in advance should you plan for this? The best points deals are often 10 to 11 months in advance of when you actually want to fly.
Okay.
Or you can find them super last minute, but I don't recommend this for beginners because it's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And a normal person is going to search for flights 3 to 8 months before they actually take the trip. And that's the dead zone where there's not a lot of good deals because they all got scooped up over here 10 to 11 months in advance. And then closer to the trip, a lot of those people are going to be like, I'm not actually going to take the flight. They'll cancel their flight. They'll come back onto the market 2 weeks before the trip or something like that. But yeah, very normal person searching 3 to 8 months in advance and not finding anything and wondering why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So 10 to 11 months, that's really like the sweet spot. We've talked a lot about being smart with your money so you can travel and spend less essentially on your travel. But I want to talk about overspending on travel because I have a lot of clients who love to travel, but it's so easy for them to overspend on it. I would love to hear your thoughts on how someone can balance financial goals and travel goals at the same time. And maybe, Julia, even taking travel hacking kind of out of it, just like your overall thoughts and opinions on this.
I don't focus so much on budget side anymore. And that's because I focused on it so much earlier. So there's different ways to approach this. One is income. If you need quick wins, cut expenses. If you want big wins, that's going to come from higher income. So I think a lot of people focus so much and for so long into how do I always make sure I'm traveling in the cheapest way possible? How do I make sure I'm not going over budget? All of that. And they're just trying to like squeeze water out of a stone at some point, especially when you see people who are 30s, 40s, and beyond, and they're still like shopping for hostels in their 50s. And I'm like, do you really enjoy hostels or why are we still traveling like we are college students? Because again, you just kind of have to act your wage at some point. As far as don't go over budget on your travels, this involves some prep work. I know a lot of people are like, the vibes will provide. I assure you, the vibes will not
They will
provide.
not.
The vibes will not provide. Do your research ahead of time. Where some people find themselves where there's a great flight deal to Bermuda or something, and they get there and they realize Bermuda is really expensive. It's where a whole bunch of people ran off with their hedge funds. So research will save you a lot of the time. Having a pad on your budget as well. I didn't realize for a long time PAD was actually an acronym for a provision for adverse deviation.
Oh.
In case like something bad happens. So like whatever you think your budget is, have 10% more or something just in case of emergencies. Because you also don't want to be saving money by putting yourself in compromising situations.
Right.
Because I know a lot of your podcast listeners are women who are trying to save money.
Yes.
That is not where you save money. You don't save money by putting yourself in compromising situations. So
true.
So there's that. But yeah, just as far as how do you avoid accidentally overspending, I think a lot of it too is just based off of what you're surrounding yourself with on social media and everything. Because if you are surrounding yourself with these images that you're using for inspiration to negotiate for better salaries, better contracts, to improve your education, start your business, that is fantastic. If you constantly feel like you're behind because your Instagram feed is inundated with people who are probably AI at this point, let's be honest.
Right.
Not really the best way to help your budget. And we can talk about tactics for how to help with like saving and budgets and like cheapest destinations, blah, blah, blah. But I think at the root of all of it, it's just aligning expectations with reality. And oh man, there's so many like misguided expectations for what's possible with travel, points, money, all of that. And I think it just starts there. Like people are so disappointed because their expectations just weren't even within the realm of reasonability for any of those things.
That makes so much sense. And like it has me thinking like I love to travel, but if I only could enjoy, let's say, one big trip a year, or I could take 6 trips and they're like weekend trips and it's just like a lot of go, go, go. It's not like super exciting. I would rather just take one big trip a year, right? And I think that's because that's something that matters to me. And I think a lot of travel too, it sounds like this is what you think, like make it work for you and your situation, not what other people are doing, not what like other people are saying, like what matters to you, prioritize that when you travel.
Yeah, people used to ask me all the time, would you rather have one business class over the ocean or 2 economy flights? And every day, one business class flight. Because if I'm hauling myself over the ocean, I better be comfortable with that. I'm not doing that uncomfortably twice.
Right.
That's negative enjoyment for me at this point in life.
That's exactly my point. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so I want to like lean on your inspiration here a little bit and just get inspired. So, what is the most impressive trip you've taken entirely or almost entirely on points? Because I know it's not just for even split, but can you walk me through the best trip you've taken for travel hacking?
I want to start with the best redemption I've planned because we haven't taken it yet. It's for next year, but it's in Etihad, the residence, which is beyond first class. You have a residence. It's a 3-room apartment. You have a bedroom, a bathroom with a shower, and a living room, just like for 2 people. There's a butler. They will pick you up from your hotel. They will process your check-in at your hotel, wheel you in a private vehicle to the airport, carry you basically from said vehicle through expedited first class security, set you down into a lounge, give you a 14-course dinner, get you to the plane where they will probably give you another 14-course dinner 30 minutes after you just had dinner. There is a bed, there is a shower, there is, very importantly, a lock with all of this for anybody who's wondering. So other people aren't accidentally wandering in on you. But yeah, it's private residence. I'm very excited to fly that next year. That's going to be like the top thing.
Wait, that's on the plane, Julia?
That's on the plane.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's Etihad, the residence. Below that, there's normal first class, which is still fantastic. That's like the Emirates first class. I've flown Cathay Pacific, where they have companion dining. They can like fold down the table so my husband and I are like in the same pod eating. caviar together, except I realized at some point I'm allergic to caviar, so that sucks. There's Qantas first class. Their chair has a massage feature. That's cool. Singapore Suites, double bed in the sky. I've flown that. That's super fun as well. The Qatar first class flight. The flight was okay, but the lounge was like fantastic. We had 13 hours of layover. We just like lived in this lounge. They have hotel rooms included in the lounge where you can nap up to 6 hours. You get your own bathroom. The food is fantastic. And it doesn't even look like an airport lounge. You're just like in this private area. It looks like a museum. You have your own duty-free store so that you're not shopping with the brokies.
Oh my God.
It's insane, the Al Safa Lounge. So that's first class. And then below that, there's business class, which is more for like lay flat seats. You don't have all of the glitz and glam and luxury, but it's very functional. So you have real plates and like nicer food, lay flat seats, lots of room. And a lot of planes don't even have true first class, like business class is as good as it gets. And that's the sweet spot of what I tend to fly most of the time. Once or twice a year, I'll do a first class flight.
Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. Where are you taking that trip that you mentioned, the top tier? Where are you going?
The Abu Dhabi trip. Okay. So it's like an around the world trip. That particular flight is Abu Dhabi to Singapore. We're based in the United States. So how are we going to get to any of these places? I've booked a flight on Turkish Airlines to Turkey. One of my favorite airlines, by the way, because the catering is so good. I'll figure out how to get from Turkey to Abu Dhabi. That's easy. We have the residence from Abu Dhabi to Singapore. I'll figure out how to get from Singapore to Vietnam. That's easy. And then we have Vietnam Airlines business class to San Francisco. And then I'll figure out how to get back to Colorado separately. So as you can tell, there's like, that's another mindset shift. You don't plan all of this chronologically. You prioritize the big pieces first and then fill in all of the little flights and like where you're going to stay and what you're going to do in each of these places. And so it's a lot of hopping around because it's a 2-week trip. But yeah, that's that route. And we do this a lot where I was like, husband, I found great flight deals to Bangkok. And he's like, how are we getting home? Oh, I found a great flight deal back from Korea. He's like, oh, that's not bad. We're going like into Bangkok and Korea, then home. And I'm like, no. He's like, what happens in the middle? Qatar and Oman. So like weird things like this end up happening these days. But there's a lot of, I would say, mindset shifts that happen when you get deeper into points and miles. And I would say probably for your audience, the biggest one is not focusing so much on the cheapest possible ways to do things. And also the way you can tell somebody has done this multiple times is when it's your first redemption, you just freak out a lot more where you're like, this is my only chance to ever experience any type of luxury like this. There's a plane delay, a plane swap. You're upset that you booked a small room and got a small room. Things like that, where you're like, I didn't get an upgrade. And like, this is my only chance to look so cool on Instagram where no one cares. I swear to you, as someone who posts all of the aspirational content, no one cares. But yeah, that's the biggest mindset shift once you're like into the game where you're just like, oh, we're delayed again. Oh, something went wrong again. Oh, I had to cancel this flight and like rebook something again. And you're just like chill about it. Yeah. That's how you can tell like they've been through the ringer too many times and they're just unbothered at this point.
I mean, that's such a good way to be, though. And I feel like that's such a good thing to share because I am nowhere near any of this yet. Like, I have so much to learn. I could probably be a client of yours, but I'm a Virgo and I'm type A. So I'm like, structure. I could totally see something like that, like throwing me off. But if you can get to a point where you know the deal, you know the drill, like this happens, you just like maneuver and rebook and you're totally unbothered by that, that's like goals.
That I think is the goal of proficiency with anything, like especially with money, because when people are not yet that proficient with money, you just freak out a lot faster where you're like, the stock market took a dip. I'm freaking out. I lost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in like the course of a few days. What do I do? And then like, once you've just like been traumatized by news enough, you're just like, this is how it goes. And then we're totally fine. Yeah. It's just the same with building up proficiency in any given skill, money, travel, business, anything. It's just like, unfortunately, taking enough hits where you're like, oh yeah, no, this happens. It'll be fine.
Totally. Well, yeah. And that builds your confidence too, right? Because like once you realize you can get through things and it wasn't as bad as like you originally thought it would be, like it's incredibly endearing.
The meme from Hangover 2 comes to mind where he's like, but did you die?
Right.
But did you die?
Nope. Okay, so you've shared so many gems. I'm so appreciative of this conversation. 2 more questions before we go. First, if someone is listening to this and they want to start using points and miles responsibly, what are the first 3 steps they should take?
Am I assuming they're already set on their financial journey and all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, because that was made very clear.
Free course at geobreezetravel.com/free course. We teach you about points 101 there. Otherwise, we have tons of resources on the Geobreeze Travel podcast and the Geobreeze Travel Instagram. We have a playbook at geobreezetravel.com/blueprint that you can check out as well, which has like step-by-step, here's how to organize all of our free content and watch it in order so it makes the most sense and you can surgically approach this. So those are some resources where I would say start there, and that'll walk you through, if you're a complete beginner, how to get deeper into points and miles.
Perfect.
Responsibly.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing, responsibly. And then you've already mentioned this, but where can listeners connect with you? Is there like a certain place that you really want them to go to?
YouTube is probably the best if you are looking for more in-depth tutorials and the technical side of what exactly are you supposed to click on in order to find some of the really good flight deals. Instagram is fun for just inspiration to see what's possible, but if you want the how-tos, check out our YouTube.
Perfect. And I will link to both of those in the show notes. Julia, this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. I appreciate it so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this episode helped you feel more confident, calm, and clear about your money. If you're ready to take the next step, head to citygirlsavings.com to explore free resources and ways we can work together. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss what's next. You are allowed to want more for your life and feel at peace while building it.